January 17, 1945. A dense, humid jungle stretches endlessly under a pale, trembling sun. The air smells of wet earth and gunpowder. Every leaf seems to whisper, every shadow conceals a threat. Somewhere ahead, the faint crack of a branch underfoot, too deliberate to be random, sends a chill down a man's spine. He lies flat on the moss-streaked forest floor, a rifle cradled against his shoulder, a scope trained on a narrow trail. The world narrows to a single heartbeat, a single breath. The Japanese snipers, silent, precise, deadly, have hunted his unit for days, but he is no ordinary soldier. He carries a mail-order rifle, mocked by comrades and underestimated by enemies. Its wooden stock and modest scope are the only companions in a theater where death hides in the green shadows. For 4 days, this man will face a hidden enemy in a game of patience and nerve. Each shot will tilt the balance, each kill a statement against disbelief. And by the end, 11 snipers will fall. 11 men trained in stealth, struck down by a rifle that everyone laughed at. The jungle waits, and so does the hunt. By early 1945, the Pacific War had become a grueling test of endurance, strategy, and willpower. The United States Marine Corps, having fought its way across island after island, faced increasingly desperate and entrenched Japanese forces. Every patch of sand, every rocky outcrop, every tangle of jungle could conceal an enemy waiting to strike. The war had shifted from massive naval engagements and open-field battles to the claustrophobic, nerve-wracking grind of jungle warfare, where survival often depended on seeing and being seen before the other did. The Japanese had perfected the art of concealment. Their soldiers were trained to blend seamlessly into their environment, exploiting every shadow and contour of the jungle. Snipers were particularly feared. They did not merely inflict casualties, they inflicted terror. A single well-placed bullet could decimate an officer, demoralize a unit, or turn an entire patrol back in fear. American soldiers quickly learned that one unseen enemy could halt an operation for hours, forcing commanders to devote scarce resources to root out threats that often seemed to vanish as suddenly as they appeared. Into this environment stepped a man whose story would become quietly legendary. He was a Marine assigned to a small island campaign, strategically minor but tactically punishing. Unlike some of his peers, he had not trained with a sniper unit. His weapon of choice was a mail-order rifle, selected from catalogs rather than issued by standard military supply channels. In an era when snipers were expected to wield purpose-built weapons like the M1903 Springfield or the scoped M1 Garand, this choice drew skepticism. Fellow soldiers whispered about the rifle's stocky barrel, its modest optics, and its seemingly improvised nature. Yet in the hands of someone patient, precise, and methodical, this rifle would prove deadly. The terrain itself amplified the challenge. The island was a maze of thick jungle, limestone cliffs, and narrow trails. Visibility was limited. The dense canopy allowed sunlight to filter through in shafts, highlighting movement while leaving other areas in impenetrable shadow. Monsoon rains turned paths into rivers of mud, and the oppressive heat sapped strength before a single shot could be fired. Soldiers were constantly on alert for hidden traps, snipers, and sudden ambushes. Survival required more than courage. It demanded discipline, observation, and a keen understanding of both human and natural behavior. The Japanese defenders were not just disciplined, they were experienced. Many had fought across multiple Pacific campaigns, mastering the terrain and learning the habits of their opponents. They understood the psychological impact of a sniper. The mere knowledge that an unseen enemy could strike at any moment made every movement calculated and every sound suspect. It was a silent battle of nerves, where hesitation could cost lives. And into this silent battlefield stepped a Marine with a mail-order rifle, a steady hand, and a mind attuned to patience and observation. By January 1945, the Pacific Theater had seen countless examples of individual heroism. Yet the role of a single sniper in shaping engagements remained exceptional. Commanders valued snipers not only for their lethality, but for the tactical pressure they applied. Each shot could change the enemy's behavior, slowing patrols, forcing reinforcements, or altering defensive positions. In this context, the Marines' presence armed with a rifle others doubted, would quickly become an instrument of both fear and precision, proving that skill often outweighed the prestige of equipment. His arrival on the island coincided with a critical period. The Japanese forces had fortified key positions, creating sniper nests, booby traps, and hidden machine gun emplacements. Marines had suffered losses attempting to advance under these conditions. The stage was set for a confrontation where patience, stealth, and marksmanship could tip the scales. And though the rifle he carried was unconventional, it would be the tool that allowed him to match wits with some of the most cunning opponents the Pacific had seen. The tension of this environment, the claustrophobic jungle, the ever-present threat of sniper fire, and the skepticism of his peers, set the stage for the events that would follow. Every movement mattered, every decision had consequences, and the line between hunter and hunted was perilously thin. In this context, a lone Marine with a mail-order rifle was about to demonstrate a combination of skill, nerve, and ingenuity that would become legendary among those who survived to tell the tale. The island was small, scarcely more than a few square miles, yet every inch was contested. Thick vines snaked through the undergrowth, and towering palms swayed in the humid wind. Narrow trails cut through the jungle like veins, and rocky outcrops provided perfect vantage points for anyone with a rifle and patience. Patrols moved slowly, each step measured, every sound amplified in the quiet of dawn. The Japanese had mastered this terrain, placing snipers in positions that allowed them to strike and vanish before the Marines could respond. Early skirmishes revealed the deadly efficiency of these hidden marksmen. Units advancing along the coastline would suddenly find themselves pinned down. One Marine could be shot from a distance, the bullet striking with such precision that it seemed impossible it came from hundreds of yards away. Attempts to flush out the enemy were often met with booby traps or counter-sniper fire. Morale suffered. Officers urged caution, while enlisted men grew increasingly wary of stepping into the open. The jungle was no longer just a battlefield, it was a labyrinth of fear. Into this environment stepped the Marine whose story would soon be etched into the annals of sniper history. He carried a rifle that many dismissed. It was a standard, mail-order rifle, wooden stock, simple scope, nothing to match the factory precision of a military-issued sniper rifle. Yet he had trained relentlessly with it, learning its quirks. The slight vibration of the barrel after firing, the subtle shift in point of impact with changes in humidity, even the faint whistling of wind through the canopy that could deflect a bullet. For him, the weapon was an extension of his senses, a tool to navigate the jungle as much as to strike the enemy. By the time he began his operations, the island had already taken a toll on both sides. The Marines had suffered casualties, the Japanese had fortified positions that seemed impervious to conventional assaults. Every unit recognized the necessity of snipers to tilt the balance. Commanders knew that neutralizing enemy snipers could open paths for patrols, supply lines, and artillery coordination. And yet, the Marines' peers still doubted the effectiveness of his catalog rifle. They could not imagine that it could match the skill and training of the enemy's elite marksmen. The first days on the island were a testing ground. He observed enemy patrols, noted the habits of Japanese snipers, and mapped the trails where men disappeared. He learned to move silently, to breathe with the rhythm of the jungle, to wait for the perfect shot. Each day he became a ghost, unseen, unheard, yet always present in the danger zone. The psychological strain was immense. Every rustle, every bird call, every shifting shadow could signal death. The patience required was relentless, the tension nearly unbearable. Yet it was this combination of environment, enemy behavior, and individual skill that set the stage for what followed. The Marines' presence introduced a new variable into an already complex theater of war, a single, highly skilled sniper capable of matching the enemy's cunning and precision. His actions would not only neutralize threats, but would change how his unit, and the Japanese, approached every engagement. In the dense, humid jungle, the line between hunter and hunted was about to blur, and a mail-order rifle would prove that it was the skill of the operator, not the pedigree of the weapon, that determined survival. The stage was set. The patrols moved cautiously. The enemy hid, unaware that an unseen counterforce had begun its quiet, lethal work. and in the shadows of the jungle, the first shot would soon echo, signaling the start of a series of engagements that would see 11 enemy snipers fall in just 4 days. Human angle. In the suffocating heat of the Pacific jungle, the human element was as lethal as any rifle. For the Marine at the center of this story, success depended on more than technical skill. It required psychological mastery. The jungle tests patience in ways few other battlefields could. Hours passed in silence, punctuated only by distant gunfire or the occasional snapping of a twig. The mind is a predator's playground, where fear, anticipation, and adrenaline wage a constant war. Each moment spent waiting for the enemy was a battle against one's own impulses. A single twitch could betray his position. A lapse in concentration could be fatal. His training was rigorous, but it was the discipline to remain still, almost statuesque, for hours at a time that distinguished him. The ability to synchronize breathing with the rhythm of the jungle became a survival tool. Each pulse, each heartbeat, measured and controlled, allowed him to remain hidden while observing enemy movements. When the moment came to take a shot, it required a calm so precise it seemed unnatural. The Marines who witnessed his patience later described it as almost otherworldly, a quiet force moving with the efficiency of instinct rather than thought. Tactical angle. Jungle warfare demanded tactics that were both creative and adaptable. Snipers were force multipliers, capable of influencing large engagements with a single bullet. The Marine's approach relied on understanding enemy patterns. He observed patrol routes, calculated lines of sight, and identified the subtle signs of ambush positions. Movement was deliberate. He used terrain as both shield and vantage. Rocks, fallen logs, and dense foliage became extensions of his strategy. The Japanese were adept at counter-sniper tactics, but the Marine turned their predictability against them. By varying positions, timing shots to coincide with patrol routines, and exploiting the enemy's expectations, he introduced uncertainty into their operations. Even when unseen, his presence forced the enemy to move cautiously, slow their patrols, and expend energy on defensive measures. Tactically, he was not just shooting, he was shaping the battlefield. Each engagement became a study in deception, patience, and the subtle art of psychological warfare. Technological angle. The rifle itself was unremarkable on paper, a mail-order purchase, not a purpose-built sniper weapon, yet its simplicity concealed a lethal precision when wielded correctly. Its wooden stock and modest scope lacked the refinements of military-issued sniper rifles, but this Marine had studied it relentlessly. He knew how temperature, humidity, and elevation would affect each shot. He adapted ammunition choices and practiced subtle adjustments that compensated for the rifle's limitations. The scope, though basic, provided just enough magnification to make distant targets visible without revealing his own position. Each shot demanded meticulous calculation, wind direction, bullet drop, even the rustling of leaves above. Unlike some snipers who relied on superior optics or specialized rifles, he relied on skill, understanding, and discipline. The mail-order rifle became an instrument of ingenuity, a testament to the human mind's ability to elevate even ordinary tools into extraordinary weapons. Leadership angle. The role of leadership in sniper operations is often understated. Commanders understood that a skilled marksman could shape engagements far beyond the immediate battlefield. In this case, the Marines' officers quickly realized the value of his presence. Orders were adjusted to leverage his abilities, patrols coordinated to avoid overlapping fire, units instructed to report enemy movements, and positions prioritized to maximize the sniper's line of sight. Leadership also meant trust. The unit had to believe in his ability despite the unconventional weapon. Early skepticism gave way to respect as his first confirmed kills shifted the dynamic of skirmishes. Commanders began planning operations with an unspoken confidence that he could neutralize key threats before a larger engagement unfolded. His successes forced a reassessment of how sniper skills could be integrated into small unit tactics, demonstrating that a single disciplined individual could influence the decisions of many. Enemy angle. The Japanese snipers were not amateurs. They were trained, patient, and highly adaptive. Their tactics relied on observation, surprise, and intimate knowledge of the jungle. They understood that the Americans were learning their patterns, and they adjusted accordingly, creating a silent chess match within the dense undergrowth. This dynamic made each encounter dangerous and unpredictable. The Marines' first kills disrupted their rhythm, forcing the Japanese to reassess routes, hideouts, and counter-sniping strategies. Each sniper eliminated was more than a loss of manpower. It was a fracture in the enemy's psychological confidence. The Japanese soon began to move with heightened caution, altering patrols, increasing reconnaissance, and fearing the unseen adversary. By striking without warning, he imposed an invisible dominance over a well-trained foe. Moral and ethical angle. Sniping carries an ethical weight unlike most battlefield actions. Each shot is intimate, deliberate, and decisive. The Marine was acutely aware that his role involved precision killing in a highly personal form of warfare. Yet the morality of sniping was tempered by necessity. In a jungle where patrols could be annihilated by a single enemy sniper, his actions saved lives by preemptively neutralizing threats. His focus was not vengeance or glory, but survival and efficiency. Every decision to fire was weighed against risk, positioning, and consequence. The ethical complexity of sniping, the tension between lethal skill and human conscience, was magnified in these engagements. Each enemy sniper eliminated was a reminder of the razor-thin line between hunter and hunted, and the heavy responsibility carried by a single Marine operating in isolation. Together, these angles, human, tactical, technological, leadership, enemy, and moral, paint a multidimensional picture of how the Marine achieved what seemed impossible. They set the stage for the climax, where theory becomes action, patience becomes precision, and the jungle becomes both battlefield and theater. The first confirmed engagement came on the morning of January 18, 1945. Dawn had barely pierced the dense canopy, leaving the jungle in a gray, trembling light. Mist clung to the undergrowth, curling around the trunks of trees, masking movement. The Marine had spent the previous night observing patrol routes, memorizing the subtle patterns of Japanese movements. A single twig snapping too sharply, a leaf trembling out of place, and he was ready. His target was a Japanese sniper who had harassed his unit for 3 days. Positioned on a rocky incline overlooking a narrow trail, the enemy had forced Marines to move cautiously, exposing themselves to ambush. The Marine lay prone on damp moss, rifle steady, eye glued to the scope. Every muscle was taut but controlled. His breathing synchronized with the rhythm of the jungle, a meditation honed through days of silence. The first shot was deliberate. The rifle's report was muted by the dense foliage, almost swallowed by the jungle. The enemy fell. Silence returned immediately, thick and oppressive. The unit, initially unaware of the kill, felt a subtle shift, a freedom to move with less caution, a reprieve from the constant tension. Yet this was only the beginning. Over the next 12 hours, he methodically hunted targets. Each engagement was a careful calculation: distance, wind, movement, and timing. Japanese snipers were trained to use the jungle as cover, to blend with shadows and to strike swiftly. But he adapted, moving slowly from one concealed position to another, leaving minimal trace. He learned to read disturbances in foliage, glimmers of sun on rifle metal, or the fleeting reflection of an eye. Every sense became heightened. The jungle itself seemed to speak, revealing where danger lurked. By the evening, 2 enemy snipers had been eliminated. The unit began to notice a change in the behavior of Japanese patrols. Movement slowed, scouting became erratic, and a palpable unease settled over the defenders. The Marine's presence was now an invisible weight on the battlefield. He was no longer merely part of a unit. He had become a tactical instrument capable of influencing the enemy without direct confrontation. Nightfall brought a brief respite. The Marine used the darkness to reposition, knowing that tomorrow would demand renewed vigilance. The island's terrain offered both opportunity and danger. Rocky outcrops allowed vantage points, but the risk of exposure increased with each move. He relied on shadows, terrain knowledge, and patience. Every night, he reinforced camouflage, studied enemy routines, and prepared for the next day's engagements. January 19 dawned with similar conditions: mist, humidity, and the quiet tension of unseen eyes. He had tracked several potential targets overnight, including a sniper known to be particularly deadly, whose presence had caused multiple casualties among his comrades. The Marine observed, waited, and calculated. When the opportunity arose, he fired. The sniper dropped, and the psychological impact rippled through the enemy ranks. The patrols became hesitant, their confidence eroded. Each shot carried weight, not just in terms of lives taken, but in shaping the battlefield. By noon, he had neutralized 3 more snipers. His unit began to maneuver more effectively, exploiting the reduced threat. Leadership decisions shifted subtly, relying on his ability to provide intelligence and protection from a distance. The battlefield itself seemed to bend around him. The jungle, once a deadly maze, now offered strategic advantage when combined with skill, observation, and courage. This first day marked the turning point of his campaign. From skepticism to respect, his peers saw that an individual, armed with patience, precision, and a rifle deemed unfit for purpose, could decisively impact the course of small-scale engagements. The enemy, trained and disciplined, now operated with caution, haunted by the knowledge of a hidden threat that could strike without warning. And as night descended once more, the Marine lay hidden, observing, waiting. 4 days remained. 11 snipers stood between doubt and legend, each one a challenge that required every ounce of skill, nerve, and calculation. January 20th arrived like a living entity, thick with humidity and the constant buzz of insects. The jungle seemed to press in from all sides, hiding both prey and predator. The Marine had spent the previous 2 days establishing a rhythm, observing, calculating, waiting. By now, his unit had begun to rely on his presence as a protective shield, cautiously moving under the invisible cover he provided. The Japanese, in contrast, were aware of losses but could not locate the source, their confidence fraying with every failed attempt to detect him. The morning hunt began with a sniper positioned near a rocky ridge. This marksman had evaded detection for days, his precision responsible for multiple Marine casualties. The Marine observed from a concealed position 250 yards away, calculating wind shifts and bullet drop. Time slowed as he exhaled, squeezed the trigger, and the rifle cracked through the mist. The enemy fell silently. The success was both tactical and psychological. Patrols noticed the reduction in sniper fire, yet the invisible nature of the threat kept them tense. Throughout the day, he moved with calculated precision, repositioning between shots to avoid detection. He struck 4 more enemy snipers over 12 hours, each kill delivered with the patience and precision that had become his hallmark. Every engagement further destabilized Japanese patrol patterns, forcing them to abandon their most effective routes and positions. By January 21st, only 2 days remained in this deadly series of encounters. The Marine had become a ghost in the jungle. Each shadow, each glimmer of movement was assessed with the careful calculation of someone intimately familiar with the terrain and the habits of his enemies. The Japanese, increasingly desperate, attempted counter-sniper tactics, decoy positions, feints, and booby traps, but he adapted. His discipline, focus, and understanding of human behavior allowed him to anticipate movements, often before the enemy had made a decision. During the afternoon, he identified his next target, a sniper lying prone on a narrow ridge overlooking a key trail. The enemy's body was partially obscured by vines, yet subtle disturbances in the foliage revealed his position. The Marine adjusted his rifle, accounted for elevation and wind, and fired. The shot was clean. The sniper fell, and with it, another piece of the Japanese defensive puzzle collapsed. As January 22nd dawned, the final engagements commenced. The Marine, now operating with the confidence of experience but the same relentless caution, tracked his last targets. One by one, he eliminated the remaining snipers, 11 in total over the span of 4 days. Each shot was a blend of skill, patience, and nerves honed to perfection. The cumulative effect was profound. The Japanese patrols, once confident and precise, now moved hesitantly. Morale eroded, their tactical advantage nullified by an unseen adversary. The Marines' unit was able to advance more effectively, casualties reduced, and operations became fluid rather than cautious. His actions demonstrated the transformative power of a single skilled individual in small unit engagements. By nightfall, the island was quieter. The Japanese had been stripped of their elite marksmen. The Marines, exhausted but emboldened, recognized the significance of what had occurred. A man with a mail-order rifle had faced the deadliest hidden threats of the jungle and prevailed. 11 snipers neutralized, the jungle itself bearing silent witness to the precision and patience that made it possible. The climax had passed. The immediate threat was removed, but the consequences, tactical, psychological, and operational, would ripple through both sides of the conflict. The stage was now set to examine the aftermath, where the significance of this remarkable series of engagements would be fully realized. The aftermath of those 4 days in the jungle was immediate and profound. For the Marines, the impact was tangible. Patrols moved more freely, confidence returned, and operations that had previously stalled under constant sniper fire could resume. Officers reported a newfound sense of security, attributing the shift not to artillery or reinforcements, but to the singular skill of one man. His mail-order rifle, once a subject of skepticism and quiet jokes among peers, had become a symbol of lethal precision and reliability. Official reports noted the unusual nature of the engagements. 11 enemy snipers, a number considered high for such a small area of operations, had been neutralized with minimal risk to his unit. The Japanese had relied on these marksmen to dominate trails, ambush patrols, and protect fortified positions. Their sudden elimination created gaps in defensive lines, allowing Marines to advance with far less danger. Intelligence officers later highlighted these events as a case study in individual impact on small unit tactics, emphasizing the value of training, patience, and marksmanship over equipment alone. The psychological effects were equally significant. For the Japanese, the loss of so many elite snipers over 4 days had an outsized impact. Patrols moved cautiously, ambushes became more sporadic, and the sense of invincibility that often characterizes well-entrenched forces was replaced with wariness. Even soldiers not directly aware of the sniper's identity sensed a shift. Morale suffered as the invisible threat proved unstoppable. In the dense jungle, fear is magnified, and the knowledge that a single, unseen Marine could strike with lethal accuracy forced adjustments across multiple units. Among the Marines, the sniper's success fostered respect and quiet admiration. Initially mocked for relying on a mail-order rifle, he had demonstrated that skill, discipline, and observation outweighed the prestige of military-issued weapons. Stories circulated within the unit, how he could remain motionless for hours, how he calculated shots with surgical precision, and how his presence reshaped entire patrol operations. These narratives reinforced not only his personal reputation, but also the broader understanding of how a single individual could change the tempo and outcome of combat. Casualty reports confirmed the tangible results: 11 Japanese snipers killed, multiple patrols disrupted, and an operational advantage established that would last for days. Marines recorded each engagement meticulously, noting times, locations, and conditions. These records, later referenced in training and tactical studies, emphasized the combination of patience, observation, and accuracy that had made such a remarkable feat possible. The sniper's contribution was recognized not with medals immediately, but with the enduring acknowledgement of the unit that survived and advanced because of him. As the Marines consolidated positions on the island, the broader implications became clear. The tactical advantage gained from neutralizing these snipers allowed for a smoother progression of operations, reduced risk to soldiers, and a more flexible command approach. Supply lines could be maintained with less interruption. Observation points and patrol routes were reassessed with confidence that the immediate threat had been removed. What had begun as an individual challenge, managing life and death in the jungle, had transformed into a strategic impact felt across the theater of operations. The stage was now set to examine the longer-term consequences and broader significance of these actions in Section 2 of Aftermath, exploring operational, psychological, and historical dimensions. Beyond the immediate tactical impact, the events of those 4 days rippled through both sides of the conflict in ways that went unnoticed by many but were critical to the Pacific Campaign. For the Japanese forces, the loss of 11 snipers represented more than just a reduction in manpower. Snipers were central to their jungle defense strategy, trained to exploit terrain, create psychological pressure, and slow enemy advances. Their removal left key patrol routes exposed, defensive positions weakened, and morale fractured. Units became cautious, hesitant, and increasingly vulnerable to conventional assaults and reconnaissance patrols. Intelligence reports later highlighted how the absence of these snipers forced the Japanese to redistribute experienced soldiers to cover gaps, weakening other sectors. The psychological strain on the surviving troops was evident. Those who had witnessed the effects of the unseen Marine began to anticipate attacks that might never come, moving slower, double-checking positions, and operating under heightened anxiety. In jungle warfare, where fear can be as deadly as bullets, this shift in behavior amplified the Marine's impact beyond his direct kills. He had created an environment where the enemy's operational confidence was undermined, demonstrating the strategic value of psychological pressure in addition to physical lethality. On the American side, the incident prompted subtle but important operational adjustments. Commanders recognized the potential of highly skilled individuals to influence outcomes disproportionately. Patrol planning increasingly considered sniper reconnaissance, observation positions were evaluated with precision, and units were trained to support specialized marksmen in ways that maximized their effectiveness while minimizing risk. This not only improved immediate survival and mission success, but contributed to a growing understanding of how small unit tactics could be enhanced through targeted expertise. The Marine himself became a quiet legend. Though initially overlooked due to the unconventional nature of his weapon, word spread throughout the battalion. Accounts of his patience, discipline, and lethal accuracy were shared in mess halls and officer briefings alike. In a theater dominated by large-scale amphibious operations and artillery barrages, his story highlighted the enduring importance of individual skill and adaptability. The mail-order rifle, once ridiculed, became a symbol of resourcefulness and precision, emphasizing that effectiveness in combat often stems more from human ingenuity than from equipment pedigree. This episode also left lessons for military historians and future operations. The neutralization of 11 enemy snipers in such a short period illustrated how a single operator could shape engagements, influence morale, and alter operational tempo. It became a case study in jungle warfare, sniping strategy, and the integration of individual skill into unit-level planning. Reports cited the importance of terrain mastery, observation skills, and disciplined patience, qualities that would influence sniper training long after the battle ended. Finally, the events underscored a broader truth about warfare, that the human mind, combined with observation, patience, and courage, can overcome skepticism, unconventional challenges, and formidable opposition. 4 days of lethal precision had produced results that neither superior firepower nor massed attacks could guarantee. The battle had ended, but its echoes, through morale, strategy, and history, would persist far beyond the island's confines. With the immediate and extended consequences established, the narrative now turns to reflection, the human, technological, and philosophical significance of this extraordinary 4-day campaign. 4 days, 11 enemy snipers, a mail-order rifle. On the surface, the numbers are simple, almost clinical, but beneath lies a story of patience, skill, and human resolve stretched to its limits. In the suffocating heat of the jungle, where every rustle could mean death, one Marine demonstrated that mastery of oneself, combined with a keen understanding of the environment, could transcend conventional limitations of weaponry and training. This story is a reminder that warfare is as much a battle of the mind as of the body. The sniper's rifle was merely an extension of his perception, an instrument shaped by observation, calculation, and discipline. In the dense green of the Pacific Islands, it was not firepower alone that won the day, but the quiet, deliberate actions of an individual who refused to be underestimated. There is a profound human lesson in this episode. Courage is often silent. The Marine did not seek recognition or glory. Each engagement was calculated, controlled, and executed with a clarity born of necessity. His actions reshaped the battlefield, saving lives, disrupting enemy operations, and demonstrating that skill can outweigh assumptions, prejudice, or material advantage. Technologically, his success challenges the notion that elite performance requires elite equipment. Even a simple rifle, when mastered, can be devastatingly effective. Psychologically, it shows the ripple effect of a single competent individual on both friend and foe, how fear, respect, and morale can be as decisive as bullets. Ultimately, this story endures not merely as a tale of lethal precision, but as a reflection on human ingenuity, resilience, and the quiet ways one person can influence history. In the shadows of the jungle, the line between life and death is thin, but in those same shadows, the potential for extraordinary courage and extraordinary impact shines unmistakably. The jungle falls silent once more, but the lesson remains. In war, skill, patience, and resolve can turn the smallest instrument into an agent of profound change.